Rah.
Okay, that's the official start sound of the podcast. Today we're going to look at caffeine and the effects that it has on performance.
Yeah.
Big fan of caffeine? Yes, no?
Huge fan of caffeine. What about you guys? You coffee drinkers?
Debatable.
In moderation.
Yeah.
I think like as far as ingredients that can have a direct impact on mood, focus, output, and it's instant and you can notice it, caffeine's up there for number one for me.
Yeah. And
I use it as a tool before training sessions and jiu-jitsu.
heaps of benefits. Mental benefits, physical benefits, social benefits, catch up for a coffee, whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bit of a stigma behind caffeine, right? And high caffeine usage from sort of generally gym goers with some pre-workout supplements having up to 400 milligrams of caffeine, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 cups of coffee.
400 is the
Massive.
recommended maximum.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think that's
Maximum.
way too high.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and then there's been a whole heap of sort of, I don't know, debate in the recent years around adrenal fatigue and all that sort of stuff. But, I mean, caffeine for me is an underutilized tool, if anything, especially in sports.
Well, how do you prefer to consume caffeine?
Anyway, pre-workout, cup of coffee, caffeine strips.
And
No,
drink.
but like
And
what you said
gels.
about
Yeah.
like adrenal,
Suppositories.
fatigue is such a. That's exactly what you're trying to avoid by having caffeine. So, for me, when I have caffeine, it's when I need to, work out so intensely in such a short period of time. But I know that what's the effect of that later down in the afternoon, you're going to be so extremely fatigued and even the next day you're going to be fatigued, and you know that you're using that energy. You're borrowing energy from the future.
But do you know how caffeine works?
Tell us, Darren.
So you have something called adenosine. Exactly. How did you know? Adenosine puts you to sleep, right?
Oh,
So,
I thought you were putting me to sleep. No, I'm kidding.
So
Go.
caffeine is an antagonist to adenosine, right? So it binds to these receptors. Caffeine kind of, blocks that, and it prevents the sleepiness that adenosine triggers.
So it's not actually officially giving you energy.
No. Well, energy is measured by calories, kilojoules.
Yeah, you've got a certain amount of energy per day. Doesn't matter if you have caffeine or not.
Yeah, correct. But what's going on in your brain? Your circadian rhythm. When you wake up, your cortisol's high. Your adenosine's still accumulating. This changes throughout the day, like the neurotransmitters and hormones and things that you have in your body. So, yeah, caffeine's just a way to modulate this to, like Mark said, borrow energy from the future.
And what are like some of the effects that it can have on sport performance? Like, why would you use, for the people that aren't using caffeine prior to their sport, like what are some of the benefits?
Well, the number one benefit for sport is probably to increase your reaction time, right? That's being studied. It's been proven. And I can think of basically every single sport could benefit from improved reaction time. The other thing is, it's also been shown to increase your grip strength, right? So
What about chess?
grip strength.
Yeah.
Grip strength.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
There you go,
So,
mate.
like, when you wake up in the morning, you can't make a fist. Think about that. It's because
Some of us find a way to make a fist.
I'm gonna
but
leave that joke
I was talking about when you do your boxing training
Yeah.
in the morning. No, but you go.
okay, try and grab your toothbrush hard in the morning. It's like
Yes. No, it's almost like this weird weakness that you have. It's like you've got. I'm not going to. I was going to say limp hand, but
yeah.
but yeah, it's like this weird sort of weakness.
Exactly, it's because your neurotransmitters, your nervous system's not fully awake.
Is
yet.
that what that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not like your muscles have weakened. It's your nervous system controlling your muscles is still waking up.
So caffeine is a way to switch that on.
Well, yeah, but think about later in the day when that's already switched on and you have more caffeine, it's going to improve that basically immediately.
How else? Like, for the lack of a better word, it does provide a certain amount of energy, or it reduces and limits fatigue
Yeah.
and the feeling of tiredness, which does translate to you being more energetic in your sport.
Yeah. That's right. Like, it's your perception of tiredness, right?
I wasn't expecting a challenge then, mate.
Yeah. Well, you said what else? I was like, that's right.
But think about this. If you're training every day, let's say at the gym, why would I want to take a pre-workout on a Monday training day when I know that's going to cause me to be fatigued on Tuesday? Because
I don't
naturally-
necessarily agree with that.
Well, wouldn't that depend
if
on...
if you're taking a high amount of caffeine, you're going to feel fatigued the next day.
And always
More
need
Not
so
to
than
take
usual.
necessarily.
caffeine.
It's more about the time you take it, right? If you take it and it's affecting your sleep, and we know how important sleep is, then sometimes that's the one downside. You're probably doing more harm than good.
Well, caffeine does have a long half-life in your body. It takes almost like 12 to 24 hours to completely break down.
Yeah.
So if you're training at 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're going to be tired the next day.
But surely that speaks to your tolerance as well. Like,
Tolerance and the amount of caffeine that you're consuming, you'd have to assume would have an impact on that as well.
Yeah.
so personally, I can have half a scoop of pre-workout
Half a scoop.
every day, and
Yeah.
I'm fine as long as that's before, say,
Yeah.
3 or 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
So-
but you probably
so-
are affecting your sleep quality, right? You know, about how deep you get into sleep and things. So
But it must also depend on how you use that caffeine as well. Like if I had half a scoop of pre-workout at the same time every day and did no exercise, I think you'd be right. I'd feel fatigued the next day. I wouldn't be able to sleep as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I have a pretty moderate to intense workout immediately after, the effects of that caffeine are exist only in that period of time.
I do experience that though, Mark. If I up my caffeine intake from usual, it's almost like I get this feeling of, I don't know, there's no science behind this, it's just bro science talk, but I get this feeling of, I don't know, running on adrenaline or running on fumes. It's just this weird, I do feel an adrenal stress if I've had too much caffeine for what I usually have. But
yeah, I know on competition days, I'll do like 1.5 scoops of pre-workout, which is close to 350 milligrams of caffeine. And I will definitely feel fatigued the
night?
the night and the entirety of the next day. But it does come from just the lack of sleep, I'd say.
But that might come from adrenaline as well. Like you think of like combat jiu-jitsu, or you're in jiu-jitsu tournaments, is that nervousness, that nervous energy, the adrenaline that you have, you are probably working a lot more harder than you do in training. So hard to measure. I agree.
Don't discount the exercise itself.
Yeah.
You may feel
Because you're
fatigued
actually
the next
just
day.
doing a lot of exercise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
or even exercising, harder than what you're used to.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So one of the ways caffeine also works is, it releases this dopamine and acetylcholine, which is another neurotransmitter, into the front part of your brain, and this is what increases your, mental and physical output. Let's call it. Your ability to think and stuff. And dopamine, is the reward chemical, right? So that's why people get addicted to caffeine, because you're getting this reward of caffeine all the time. So I'm pretty addicted to coffees.
Do you guys ever
We are
go a
well
day
aware.
without caffeine?
Yeah.
Do you have any like slight withdrawals or anything like that?
No. So right now I'm preparing for a try on Sunday. So I'm doing a 6-day caffeine, like no caffeine consumption.
A try?
Triathlon.
Triathlon.
Oh, sorry, that was abbreviated lingo. Yep.
Yeah, sorry.
Like you are the epitome of Musashi all sports, aren't you? You do every sport.
I'm trying. It's hard. I'm lost for time sometimes. I want to do one and I got to do the other.
I thought you meant cheerleading tryouts.
Yeah, it's that's Saturday and then the triathlon.
He does that too.
I got to do everything. Capture all sports. Netballs on Friday night.
Score a try.
So would you use caffeine for your triathlon? Because in endurance, it's less commonly used. It's more, which is,
True.
I don't know. I find that a little bit odd. I'd be more susceptible to using caffeine for longer.
But if we think about like the principle of borrowing energy from the future, if it's something really long, you might front weight that endurance event to perform it better, but then you might fade a little bit by the time you run out.
I'll just sprint it. Just
Yeah.
goes fast.
How long's the triathlon? Is it like a
1.5k swim, 40k bike, 10k run.
so? How long will that take you roughly?
4 to 5 hours.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So you'll use caffeine before.
And a little bit during. Yeah.
You use it during as
Yeah.
well. Yep. Well, caffeine can act as it can dehydrate you slightly as well, can't it?
That's true. That's why it's also important to drink water and even a little bit of sodium if you can with caffeine. A lot of people get like the jitters, shaky hands and
Yeah.
stuff if you have too much caffeine. Sometimes I get it.
You get the shaky leg,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm
the
just
stanky leg.
The
They call
stanky
it.
leg.
I'm just excitable. And then basically, if part of that is you're also getting dehydrated, right?
Yeah.
So they say if you drink water when you have caffeine, it offsets the jitters.
Yeah.
So should you be drinking more water if you do have a higher caffeine intake?
Not
throughout the day?
exactly, because water's not going to hydrate you. It's salt that's going to hydrate you.
Right. So
Yeah.
more electrolytes
Yeah.
and
But caffeine is a diuretic as well, so it makes you excrete stuff.
So you go double down on water, double down on salt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, the ultimate combo is like creatine and caffeine together. Instant go to the toilet.
well, actually, funny you say that. There was a bit of bro science in the past that people thought caffeine and creatine didn't interact well, but that's kind of been debunked now.
Well,
Yeah.
creatine's good because it's hydrating. It helps you store water in your muscles. So
Yeah.
But
Intracellular.
But you need more water when you have creatine.
you do need more water. So if you're doing caffeine and creatine, you've got to be, get one of those Musashi 4-liter jugs with you.
Yeah.
Does caffeine have any impact on the way like you metabolize carbohydrates or anything? I've heard some stuff as well. It can help sort of conserve the carbohydrate converting into energy, basically. I don't
know enough about it.
Yeah.
Let me check the notes.
Duran's made some notes.
That sounds more like a carnitine or a choline.
Well, carnitine, that's more of a shuttle.
Carnitine's more about fat transport and
transport,
things,
yeah.
rather than carbohydrates. But it is caffeine and caffeine-containing beverages do influence this peptide called GLP-1, which actually affects your hunger and things like that. So caffeine can be used as a bit of a appetite suppressant.
Suppressant, okay.
Yeah. But, when you have caffeine, there's different ways to get it. So, like we talked about, pre-workouts, energy drinks, which tend to use, an extracted form of caffeine. But if you're having it in a more natural source, like
Espresso martini.
espresso martinis, yerba mate tea, you might be getting caffeine with all these other goodies like chlorogenic acid and stuff, which do have other health effects and, all these antioxidants and things that you might get with it.
What are the disadvantages of having too much caffeine, particularly for sport?
Has anybody here ever had too much caffeine?
I think so.
Yeah.
And
I feel nauseous. Like
Yeah.
if I have too much.
You downed one of those Bang energy shots a few
Oh
weeks
yeah.
back. How'd you feel?
I felt like I was on crack. Like, it wasn't good.
It's a horrible feeling. I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine actually going into any sort of sport or physical activity feeling that nauseous.
Yeah.
Like it's off-putting.
I didn't feel nauseous, but I felt like I had the amount of caffeine to the point where my heart was just like
Yeah.
pounding. I was running out of breath really, really quickly as a result. I just couldn't run as far or as fast for as long.
Well, this is
Yeah,
also
think about
this-
that before like a jiu-jitsu comp as well, like the heart racing. You're
That's
trying
the
to
thing.
remain as calm as
I
possible.
was trying to figure that out in my head. I was like, I'm trying to remain calm, but I want energy at the same
I
time.
know, it's this fine balance,
What
isn't
do I
it?
do? What do I do? Take the perfect amount, and then I have so.
Well,
I-
well,
Well, what is the perfect amount? What's a good amount?
Well, caffeine has a narrow therapeutic window, right? So therapeutic window is like the difference between the dose and until it becomes poisonous. There's this like really terrible story about this guy in Australia, this young guy. He came home from a party and, he just wanted to just have a bit more energy. So he had some pure caffeine powder and he accidentally put a teaspoon of caffeine into his drink
I remember hearing about that.
and he died.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Pure caffeine can be pretty dangerous.
Where do you get pure
Yeah, I was
caffeine
gonna say the
from?
same
Well,
thing.
since then the TGA have banned the sale of pure caffeine in Australia, but there's all these dodgy websites around. That
So how
you
much
can apply
caffeine
for.
would be in a teaspoon of pure caffeine?
Well, maybe about 2,500 milligrams, something like
Oh,
that, which is a
What,
large amount, right?
Average cup of coffee's got, 80 milligrams?
Yeah. So
10 serves of pre-workout.
yeah.
Oh my god.
So
Yeah.
yeah, one scoop of Musashi is Musashi pre-workout's 250 milligrams. The 500 mil energy is about 160
And it
milligrams.
interacts with alcohol. There's an interaction with alcohol and caffeine.
One's a depressant, one's a
Stimulant.
stimulant. So
Not healthy.
Yeah.
no, not
Fun,
healthy.
but not healthy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Noted.
Yeah.
What?
Note that next time you have a Jaeger bomb.
Yeah, true. Well, that's Red Bull and whiskey, isn't it?
One has caffeine, one has alcohol,
Yeah,
right?
grim. Ugh.
It's Jägermeister and Red Bull.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway,
For me, ideally, I don't push it over our pre-workout, which is a couple hundred milligrams, a bit above. But preferably for me, I reckon I'd like to sit around 150, 160 milligrams.
yeah.
Any more than that, I start to feel a bit off and a bit
Well-
nauseous. And
They say the upper kind of limit for most people is like 3 to 4 milligrams per kilogram of body weight.
right.
So
Mm.
if you're 100 kilos,
Yeah,
300
what's the
milligrams
numbers?
kind of like the
But
upper limit.
Tolerance has such a big effect as well, though.
Yeah, definitely. If you're not adapted to caffeine, do you remember your first ever coffee? I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it was here.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah, we made you drink
yeah,
coffee.
exactly.
I
Yeah.
remember
made
you
it for me.
used to just drink hot chocolates.
It was
I drank-
hot Milos he
Yeah.
used to have
Mm,
with the marshmallow on top in your little dinosaur sippy cup.
yeah. No comment. If I consumed the sheer amount of coffee that you guys consume in a given day, I don't think I'd be able to sleep that night.
I only have 2. Darren has about 15, but
Yeah.
Him in particular.
3 coffees.
And he double scoops his pre-workout.
but Darren's a savage,
Not
mate. He's
anymore.
they're not built like that anymore.
No. You built different.
Yeah. Come from a different place.
Do you recommend caffeine for like team sports, like soccer, football?
100%.
Yeah.
I
What
mean-
about like things like cricket? The mental focus and the reaction time, you'd have to
I
think
would
that'd be
say.
awesome.
Yeah, the reaction time can apply to every sport. So
Mm.
I can't think of many sports where caffeine wouldn't benefit you.
Can't
Maybe
imagine
maybe like
standing out
maybe
on
like
the
shooting
field.
or
Darts.
something.
Yeah.
When you need a steady hand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
actually take other things to slow their heart rate down, don't
Yeah,
they?
exactly.
Yeah, no
No,
pubs,
so-
no pub sports.
No. I reckon if you haven't utilised caffeine before sport, it's worth tinkering with, worth playing around with. Just start
But the
with a
thing-
low dosage and see how your body reacts, or do it before training or something. And
The thing about caffeine, it's not just coffees, it's not just pre-workouts that it's found in. You know, it's also found in all kinds of drinks and beverages and food in nature. Tea, black tea.
oh yeah, a
green
lot of
tea.
people don't even realise
Yeah, a
that
lot-
there's caffeine in tea.
Yeah, like my parents like sipping tea. Like I don't know how many cups of tea
I
they
know,
drink
like
in a day.
9 or 10 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
parents are drinking tea. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
like a
that's
coffee.
like 20 milligrams of caffeine in
Yeah.
a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola,
Coca-Cola, Coke has, I think,
30 milligrams per
that-
serve.
Does
30
it really?
It doesn't actually say on the can.
No.
You
No.
have to Google it.
Pepsi Max
Yeah.
does, I think.
Pepsi Max has a bit more than Coke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pepsi Max is basically an energy drink.
Is it really?
Yeah.
How much is in it?
So is Mountain
Like
Dew.
55?
Mountain Dew is about like 99 milligrams or something.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And
Yeah.
You
What
gotta
what
be-
foods?
cocoa, anything with cocoa.
Cocoa powder.
Chocolate?
Yeah.
Cocoa Pops for
chocolate.
Hal?
So,
Mm.
well, cocoa has this other stimulant called theobromine, which has some other benefits in it.
Mhm.
But yeah, some cocoa has some caffeine in it.
Mm. Chocolate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Caffeine everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan. You guys fans of caffeine?
Yeah, I'm still
Yeah.
on the fence, but for now, a fan.
The guy
Yeah.
that's having the most caffeine is on the fence.
Do you-
I just get so fatigued after the day after. Always when I use it very rarely when I need to like really push myself, and I find probably the dosage is so high, the after effects are so high too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So some practical tips then. So
Yeah.
number 1, don't go above 3 milligrams per kilogram of body weight per day. That's a good rule of thumb. Avoid caffeine in the first 90 minutes of waking up because, you know,
Really?
you want to block adenosine, which isn't yet built up. So a lot of people, the very first thing they do before they even open both of their eyes, they make a coffee with one eye, right?
What if you're exercising within an hour of waking up?
Oh, then that's probably the exception, right?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, you want to, you know, get your circadian rhythm, you know, flowing nicely. And on the other side of that, don't have it too close to bed.
Yeah.
All right?
Which for you is an hour beforehand.
Yeah.
That's fine. You told me previously that you have a full pre-workout scoop at 8 o'clock and still are asleep by, what, 10 or 11?
Yeah. Well, I used to go to gym, though, at 8
Yeah.
o'clock.
P trains hard, like,
Yeah.
not like you.
Oh!
So he's fatigued.
I
You've copping it.
guess
Feel free to throw the
the other
heat back
thing,
at me.
if you want to supercharge your caffeine, is,
Yeah.
you know, because once you have a tolerance, you need a higher dose to get the same effect, right? Well,
Inject it. No? Oh.
Well, do what Mark's doing, right?
Yeah.
Just avoid caffeine for a week or two.
Oh.
And then it's like,
It's like a superpower.
I know.
Yeah.
it's
when
crazy.
when you go a few days without it and then you have one, boom. Yeah, you really feel it.
Yeah. Same applies to anything, right? Once you have a tolerance to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, I think caffeine. We've talked about the benefits, talked about the cons.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've covered it. Try it.
2 thumbs up.
Do we have a
Musashi
quote
endorses
for
caffeine.
Oh yeah, but
Let's see.
Miyamoto Musashi used caffeine
Yeah, for
in
sure.
all of his battles.
It's a pre-workout, I think.
Wasn't
Yeah.
it Miyamoto Musashi that said, "Don't talk to me before my coffee"?
Let's see. We'll open it up to a random page
He did.
and see if there's something relevant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't talk to me. That was his main quote, I think.
It's on the cover.
All right. Okay. There are times when you must compress your spirit prior to exploding, and times when you must explode before compressing. This is called the yin-yang attack. There's no one way to attack and destroy the enemy.
The first part I liked.
It's kind of relevant.
Yeah.
No, everything's relevant.
Like sometimes you need caffeine to explode,
Yeah.
but you know.
What sort of explosion are we talking about?
Oh, come
But
on.
on the other hand, sometimes you need to relax and
That is relevant when
yeah.
you explain it like that.
you must
Use it wisely then.
explode before compressing.
It's such a stretch, but I'll allow it.
Maybe Mark's method's the best. Use it sparingly and when you really need it the most.
Agree.
But then just don't overdose.
No, I do.
Yeah.
All right. Another episode in the books.
Sweet.
Good stuff.
Until next time.
Musashi out.